Intelligent design, ID, posits that certain features of the universe and living things are best explained by an intelligent cause, not an undirected process like natural selection. Evolutionary theory suggests that all species have descended from common ancestors through natural selection, acting on random mutations. ID proponents argue that life is too complex to have arisen solely through natural processes, highlighting examples like the intricate machinery within cells. Critics of ID argue that it is not science because it invokes supernatural explanations, but ID supporters counter that it is based on empirical observations. The debate between ID and evolutionary theory has sparked significant controversy. ID advocates argue that there are critical gaps in evolutionary explanations that cannot be filled by current scientific understanding. This essay will delve into the strengths of ID, the limitations of evolutionary theory and abiogenesis, and present empirical observations supporting the ID perspective.
A cornerstone of ID is the concept of irreducible complexity. This idea, introduced by biochemist Michael Behe, suggests that certain biological systems cannot function if any part is removed. The bacterial flagellum is often cited as an example. This microscopic motor, which propels bacteria, is composed of multiple interdependent parts. If any part is missing, the flagellum does not work. Irreducible complexity challenges the evolutionary idea that complex systems evolve through small, incremental changes. According to Behe, such systems could not have evolved step by step because the intermediate stages would be non-functional. Critics argue that irreducible complexity can be explained through evolutionary processes, such as co-option, where existing parts are repurposed for new functions. However, Idaho proponents counter that there is insufficient evidence for such mechanisms. They emphasize that irreducible complexity is observed in numerous biological systems, suggesting a pattern of design.
Another key argument for ID is specified complexity. This concept, developed by mathematician William Dembski, refers to patterns that are both complex and specified. DNA, the molecule that carries genetic information, is a prime example. The sequence of nucleotides in DNA is highly complex and precisely ordered to perform specific functions. DNA's complexity is evident in its ability to store vast amounts of information. ID proponents argue that such specified complexity cannot arise through random processes. They compare DNA to a written language or a computer code, both of which require an intelligent source. Critics of ID suggest that natural processes, such as natural selection and genetic drift, can account for the complexity of DNA. However, Idaho advocates maintain that the specified complexity observed in DNA is best explained by an intelligent cause. The specified complexity of DNA extends to its functional roles, further supporting the idea of an intelligent design.
The fine-tuning argument extends the ID perspective to cosmology. It posits that the constants and laws of the universe are precisely set to allow the existence of life. For instance, the strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, and the cosmological constant are all finely tuned. Even slight variations in these values would render the universe lifeless. Proponents of ID argue that this fine-tuning cannot be attributed to chance. They suggest that the precise calibration of these constants indicates a purposeful design. Critics of the fine-tuning argument propose alternative explanations, such as the multiverse theory. This theory suggests that our universe is one of many, each with different physical constants. However, Idaho proponents argue that the multiverse theory lacks empirical support, and that fine-tuning remains best explained by design. The fine-tuning argument also encompasses the initial conditions of the universe, further supporting the case for an intelligent designer.
Section 5. Critique of abiogenesis. Abiogenesis, the idea that life arose from non-living matter, is a central challenge for evolutionary theory. Despite extensive research, scientists have yet to identify a viable mechanism for the origin of life. The complexity of even the simplest living cells poses significant hurdles for abiogenesis. The formation of complex biomolecules, such as proteins and nucleic acids, from simple chemicals remains unexplained. ID proponents argue that the improbability of abiogenesis supports the idea of an intelligent cause. Critics claim gaps in understanding abiogenesis do not justify invoking design. However, Idaho advocates maintain that the lack of viable explanations underscores the need for considering intelligent design.
Section 6. Gaps in the fossil record. The fossil record is often cited as evidence for evolutionary theory. However, ID proponents argue that significant gaps challenge gradual evolution. These gaps are evident in the abrupt appearance of complex life forms during the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrian explosion saw the sudden emergence of most major animal phyla. This rapid diversification contradicts gradualism expected from evolutionary theory. ID advocates argue that sudden appearances are better explained by design. Section 7. Limitations of natural selection and random mutation. Natural selection and random mutation are key mechanisms in evolutionary theory. ID proponents argue these mechanisms have significant limitations. Random mutations rarely produce new, functional genes. Most mutations are neutral or harmful. ID advocates argue that random mutations can't generate vast genetic information. Natural selection depends on existing variation. It selects traits that already exist, not creating new ones. ID advocates maintain these limitations support intelligent design.
Section 8. Empirical observations supporting ID. ID arguments are grounded in empirical observations rather than theological assumptions. Proponents of ID point to the complexity and functionality of biological systems as evidence for design. They argue that the intricate machinery of cells, the specified complexity of DNA, and the fine-tuning of the universe are best explained by an intelligent cause. One of the key empirical observations supporting ID is the information content of DNA. The precise sequences of nucleotides in DNA encode instructions for building and maintaining organisms. This information is highly complex and specified, resembling a computer program or a written language. ID advocates argue that such information cannot arise through random processes. Another empirical observation is the presence of irreducibly complex systems in biology. ID proponents argue that such systems could not have evolved through gradual step-by-step processes, further supporting the idea of design. Section 9. Summary of intelligent design's strengths. Intelligent design offers a compelling perspective on the origins of life and the universe. Its strengths lie in its ability to explain the complexity and functionality observed in biological systems, the specified complexity of DNA, and the fine-tuning of the universe. ID arguments are based on empirical observations rather than theological assumptions, making them a viable scientific alternative to evolutionary theory and abiogenesis. Irreducible complexity challenges the gradualist model of evolution by highlighting systems that could not function if any part is removed. The specified complexity of DNA resembles a computer program or written language, suggesting an intelligent source. The fine-tuning of the universe's physical constants and initial conditions further supports the idea of purposeful design. The critique of abiogenesis underscores the improbability of life arising from non-living matter through natural processes. Together, these observations support the case for intelligent design. Section 10. Conclusion. Intelligent design provides a robust framework for understanding the origins of life and the universe. Its strengths lie in its ability to explain the complexity, functionality, and specified complexity observed in biological systems and the fine-tuning of the universe. ID arguments are grounded in empirical observations, challenging the assumptions of evolutionary theory and abiogenesis. The concept of irreducible complexity highlights systems that could not function if any part is removed, suggesting a purposeful design. The specified complexity of DNA resembles a computer program, indicating an intelligent source. The fine-tuning of the universe's physical constants further supports the idea of design. Together, these observations make a compelling case for considering ID as a viable scientific alternative.